All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Introduction to Emotional Intelligence. My name is Tricia Grant. I will be facilitating tonight and working with you to help you to understand where EQ has come from, why we need it, why it's so important, and also just talk a little bit about the foundation of emotional intelligence. So I just wanted to quickly introduce myself. I'm Tricia Grant. I am originally from uh, the United States, Boston, Massachusetts. I live now in Southeast Asia, in the South Pacific now for a little over um, 10 years. I've been in Australia primarily, and we also have a house and live in Bali as well. But currently, with the coronavirus, we are nestled in the beautiful mountains and hills and farm area of Port Macquarie in New South Wales. So thank you to those tuning in. I'm going to go ahead and do a bit of a presentation this evening, which is quite exciting. So we'll do a little bit of presentation, and I'm going to go back and forth between the slides and myself talking, and we'll talk a little bit, like I said, about EQ, and then we're going to move into the most important thing in the foundation for emotional intelligence, which is self-awareness. And as mentioned a few times, this is one of a three-part series, and I'm looking forward to chatting with you. So please feel free to ask any questions or anything you want to hear a little bit more about. Just go ahead and do so in the comments. All right, let's get ourselves prepared. And if you are tuning in, please just let us know where you are. I'd love to hear from you. And I'm going to go ahead and get this all ready for us. All right. Share a screen. Okay. All right. I think we are starting to share. Beautiful. All right. So just a little bit about myself. My name is Tricia Grant. I am an ISEI, which is Institute of Social and Emotional Intelligence certified facilitator and keynote speaker. The co-founder with my business partner, Stephanie Pinto, of EQ Culture. It is a leadership development team organization where we help organizations, schools, medical facilities to implement soft skills into their working environment, and we do so through the competencies of emotional intelligence to address real pain points within businesses. We also run a really awesome, super fun, interactive group of about 2,000 members called Emotional Intelligence for Leaders in Business. And so if you're a coach, it's great to be a part of. It's also, if you're part of a team, or if you're just someone who wants to learn some really great tips or have some questions around soft skill development, please come on and join us. And then I also am a business developer. So I have a business based out of New Zealand and Australia called Garrison Force, where we help businesses develop, seek funding, and or sell through mergers and acquisitions or any sort of pivoting that a business might need or any attention there. And then I work as the global hospitality consultant for Draper Startup House, which is an amazing network, global network of entrepreneurs and venture capitalists. And we also have hostels around the world. And it's a super exciting job. And I feel really, really blessed to work with them as a consultant. So that's just a little bit of background for me. I've been studying EQ now, and really it's changed my life so much in the last 3 years, and I'm really deep on my journey now of self-awareness and just being the best version of myself that I can be. And yeah, that's where I am right now, particularly focusing on feminine and masculine energy, which is something that I've really been sort of leaning toward these days, which, as you just get deeper into this self-awareness and this self-development, as you know, you just get deeper and deeper and you get more and more enlightened. So it's very exciting. And what is emotional intelligence? Okay, so the reason I really gravitated toward EQ is because I'm a little bit measurable. I've got an analytic brain, and I like the idea that emotional intelligence sort of is quite precise. Okay, so what it is by definition, by the Institute of Social and Emotional Intelligence's definition, it is the ability to be aware of your own emotions and the emotions of others in the moment, and to use that information to guide your actions and behaviors. So again, it's the ability to be aware of your own emotions and the emotions of others in the moment, and to use that information to use the information to guide your decisions, actions, and behaviors. I've just got someone called Daniel asking if we have a Zoom link. I do have a Zoom link. I don't know how to share it. Give me 1 second, Daniel. I'm going to try and share that with you so that you can come and join us on Zoom if you'd like. I'm kind of techie / not techie at all. So let me just have a moment here and see if I can't get this into the comments. It is ID for Zoom is 883-8935-1720. Okay, that's all I could do, Danielle. Thank you so much for asking, but I don't know where the actual invite's gone, unless you can click invite. Hold on, actually, I think I can copy the invitation. And then back to this. It's crazy what you can do on the internet now. It's just like kind of mental, but I love it at the same time. Like I said, I'm kind of EQ, kind of IQ when it comes to this. All right, so there's like a monster invitation. All right, so cool. So back to where we were. So what is emotional intelligence? And we're talking about the definition by the book definition of EQ, which is the ability to be aware of our own emotion and the emotion of others in the moment, and then use that information to guide your decisions, your actions, and your behaviors. So what this looks like is, basically what this looks like is there's 3 words here that are actually in a row that set this sentence apart from anything else. And usually I'd have people guess what those 3 words are. So they're in a row, and it really defines what EQ is. If anyone's listening and wants to take a guess, go for it. Absolutely open to having someone take a guess on what those 3 words are. I'm going to give you guys a minute. All right. Okay. So the 3 words are in the moment. Okay. And I love these words. And it's funny when we pull them out and actually really think about that, is because I think we all know how we should show up and how we should respond. But it's about taking that information and utilizing how we show up and doing it in the moment that sets us apart. And that's what high emotional intelligence is. It's taking the extra moment in the moment when it's happening to really respond as opposed to react. This is so much easier to say than to do. So like, think about it from your own perspective. Who has ever been like, oh shoot, like I shouldn't have done that? Or like you have a moment happen, maybe it's really quite like intense, and then you're like, oh God, I wish it went this way, I wish it went that way. Well, it's about not just the reflection, because reflection's great and hindsight is always 20/20. But that being said, is there a way that we can actually show up and make those responses worthwhile whilst in the actual moment? Absolutely. They absolutely are. So that's what EQ is. That's what emotional intelligence is. And so if you just look here, the great thing, as I mentioned before about EQ, is that I love about it is that it is quite measurable. And we do this test, this emotional intelligence test, that the ISEI puts out, and it measures you. You take it yourself. It's a self-assessment, and hi Vicky, how are you? And it shows you what areas of growth you need to focus on. So we've split those into 4 quadrants. So the first one is self-awareness. So let me go back a slide. So self-awareness is emotional self-awareness, and it's about who we are and how we show up. And really the base for emotional intelligence. We really do need to start with our own awareness before we can start with anything. Hold on one second. Vicky, do you mind muting yourself, darling? I don't know if it doesn't seem to be working. Are you muted? Oh, there we go. Perfect. Thanks, hon. Okay, cool. So that's self-awareness. The number one place we start. We have to know ourselves before we can know anyone else. Then we go down to this quadrant here, which is about management. Okay, so this is self-management. This is how we manage ourselves. Behavioral self-control, that's a really big one. Those are our triggers. Those are the things that like make us like get hot and headed. Our integrity, like what we believe in, whether it's good or bad, those are our beliefs. Those are our integral values, and usually they create paradigms for us and behavioral traits and things that we really believe in. Our optimism, our resilience. I just did a discussion on resilience just a little while ago, a couple hours ago, and that's really huge. It's all about our self-management, how we react when things are stressful. Also about our agility level. Are we able to adapt in different circumstances? So those are the 2 self quadrants. So it's our self-awareness and our self-management. Then we have our other awareness. So this is the awareness of others and how we respond to other people's emotional and or characteristic traits. So I've said this a few times. A lot of people always just think that emotional intelligence is just empathy. Like people will be like, oh, I know what EQ is. It's empathy. Well, empathy is actually just one of 26 different competencies within emotional intelligence. And it sits here. It's about being aware of other people. So it's also about reading the situation, situational awareness, and also what we do to show up for other people through service orientation. And then last quadrant we have is our relationship management. So this is how we manage others. And this is where a lot of our practices around leadership development come in. These are things like communication, our interpersonal effectiveness. How are we at influencing others? Conflict management and trust and teamwork. So these wonderful sort of juicy words that we love around leadership. And it's something super, super exciting. It is a great area to focus on. And that's the great thing about EQ is not just yourself, but it's also understanding information about other people. So moving right along. So that is emotional intelligence in a nutshell. And EQ's been around really since the term emotional intelligence has been around since the 90s. When the book Emotional Intelligence came out. But the competencies, all these things, behavioral self-control, integrity, resilience, building bonds, they've been around since, you know, honestly, like the beginning of psychology and humanity. So the competencies have always been there, but this is really just sort of an umbrella for all of that wonderful stuff. All right, so moving on to the next slide. So what are some benefits of emotional intelligence? So we've got so many benefits. It reduces stress. It gives us emotional stability, right? We also get improved in our resilience. We're ready for any sort of, something that might be out of the norm. We're able to recognize our emotions more so that we're able to sit on them and really feel them so that we're able to move forward with a little bit more grace and in calmness. It reduces stress, it reduces burnout, it builds our empathetic muscles. It allows us to see other people's perspectives. That's my personal My personal favorite is seeing other people's perspectives. It helps in so many ways. It gives you better communication skills so that you're able to get your your message across much more clear. It also, it cultivates extroversion. So that essentially means that it allows you to become more confident in who you are so that you're able to really speak your mind if something doesn't line up from you. So I want to talk a little bit about where our emotions come from, okay? So really they come from the limbic system. It's a group of interconnected structures that's located deep within our brain. And it's the part of our brain that's really responsible for behaviors and emotional responses. And it's broken up into 4 different areas. We've got the hypothalamus, which it controls our emotional responses. And it's also involved with our sexual responses, our hormone release. It regulates our body temperature. And then we have the hippocampus, and that helps preserve and retrieve our memories, right? So when we're looking for a memory or something that we want to recall, that's coming from our hippocampus. We have our amygdala, and that helps us coordinate our responses. So this is where, like, if we're triggered by an emotional response, something that upsets us or something. So this plays a role within our fear and our anger. And then we have our cortex, the limbic cortex, and this part contains 2 structures, and they impact our mood, our motivation, and our judgment. Okay? So that's really sort of the bones of EQ and where it comes from and why, and just really the foundation of what emotional intelligence is. And so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen again, because we're going to talk a little bit about my favorite thing to discuss. And it's always the launch pad that we use when we're discussing emotional intelligence. And that is our self-awareness. All right. So the first step to controlling our emotions is our self-awareness. All right. And so in order to do that, in order to be aware of who we are, we really have to be able to label our feelings and our emotions, and also get really familiar with our gut level instincts and our reactions. So you want to be able to connect these to the source. Why are we feeling this way? And really being able to describe it and recognize the effects on your mind and your body, and use your feelings as valuable sources of insight to really, really inform about yourself and others, the situations that surround you, okay? So this is all what emotional self-awareness is. People who have emotional self-awareness is sort of a high area of themselves. They know what they're feeling, and they're able to describe them. They can describe how they're feeling. How are you feeling? What does everybody usually say? I'm good. I feel good. Right. But how are you really feeling? And then what else? And realize in the moment the link between the feeling and what we think, do, or say. So if I'm feeling angry and I'm feeling that way, like, will I allow myself to be triggered, or am I allowed to just say, this is how I'm feeling, and then take the necessary steps in order to get out of that feeling if it is a negative feeling, or work toward getting out of the negative feeling? Eventually, first feel it. It's all good. And it's not about just being happy-go-lucky all the time. That's definitely not what EQ is. It's about being able to feel your emotions, recognize them, and self-awareness is all that. So it's recognizing how your feelings affect your performance. That's another thing. If you do have high self-awareness and you recognize how your performance is. I'll be honest, I do not have the best behavioral self-control. That comes up a lot for me. I mean, whether it's like just going out and having a few drinks with girlfriends, I usually end up having a little too many. Like if I'm having a really good time, that's an issue for me, and something that I recognize in myself. So I have to take certain steps in order to address that. And so that's me as behavioral self-control. I can flip my lid on occasion and lose my shit, especially with my family, with people that I love the most. And I really have to think about that and work toward not showing up as that person. And then also people who have high self-awareness can actually really tell in that moment, when they're starting to get upset. Like that's a real skill. Like, oh, I'm starting to feel this way. I'm feeling like I'm going to get angry. What can I do? Maybe people have different techniques, right? You could punch it out on a gym punching bag, on a what's it called? Like a boxing bag, or you could, take a breather or meditate. So that is a really great skill if you have emotional self-awareness. And also you're able to articulate the way you feel and appropriately express it. And we're going to go into that a little bit more. I'm going to show you this wonderful tool that we use to help people with their emotions. So people who might not have high self-awareness, they may receive messages from their bodies, such as chronic headaches, lower back pain, shoulder pain, heart racing, sweaty palms, anxiety, but they usually don't pay attention to these signals or connect them to their source and what's causing these physical symptoms. And so often our mind is our body, right? We are connected, and therefore not listening to that could be really detrimental. And somebody's trying to tell you something, your body is trying to tell you something. Also fail to gain insight and information on what their body is trying to tell them. You get irritated, frustrated, or angry easily. And then what happens is you end up lashing out on other people, right? And that's not good. And nobody wants that. And then in hindsight, you might apologize or recognize it. But if you don't have self-awareness and you continue to do this over and over, you're going to end up damaging your relationships. And then they often feel really stressed out as far as like their work life, their health, and their family. So those are some things about what emotional self-awareness looks like, right? So let's go ahead and go back to a wonderful tool that we love to use, which is our emotions wheel. And so this is describing your emotions, okay? And if you're into this and you really want to have a copy, please just reach out or write it in the comments. I'm happy to send this to you. So this is the emotions wheel. And as you can see, it talks about like how you're feeling, right? So we are always feeling somewhere within these 6 emotions, right? So usually it's like, I'm feeling good. I'm feeling all right. I'm feeling okay. I'm feeling pissed off. I'm feeling super sad. I'm feeling like super surprised. Okay, well, what else? Well, for example, right now I'm feeling pretty content. So let's see if we can't find content on this, right? So I'm feeling, that's actually an emotion under the joy umbrella. So I'm content, which means I'm feeling satisfied. I'm pleased. I'm tranquil. I might be feeling a little bit cheerful or playful. I'm also super focused, and I'm feeling, again, it's sort of like that contentment and optimism and all these wonderful things that I'm feeling right now. But if I'm feeling fear, I might feel scared, terrified. You can feel insecure. That's a feeling of fear. You can feel horrified, anxious, hysterical, panicked. So this tool is awesome. And like, I recommend everybody print it out and put it onto their refrigerator or wherever, and really check in with yourself. So one of the things that will build your emotional intelligence and your self-awareness, your emotional self-awareness, is checking in with yourself. So there's this really cool app called the Mood Meter that you can download, and you can actually check in on your emotions like 3 or 4 times a day. So for example, like I used to do it, I don't really do it as much anymore because I'm pretty across descriptions of how I'm feeling. But all that said, when I was starting out, I used to like put it on at 7 a.m. and I'd be like, okay, I'm feeling, whatever. I'm just feeling good, content, satisfied, all right, and then 10 a.m. I'd check in, 3 p.m. I'd check in, and then 5 p.m. I'd check in. And overall, like I have a pretty cheerful demeanor. But that said, I would definitely I started to notice a pattern over and over at 5 p.m. where I was feeling really quite anxious and like just stressed out, anxious, annoyed, frustrated, aggravated. And so I realized that was a great time for me to implement the gym. So for a long period, I would go to the gym and just like run it out, punch it out, 5 o'clock. And then after a while, I've turned that into yoga. And so now I do my working out around 5 o'clock when half my work day is over, before I start the second part of the last bit of my work for the evening. So these are things that we can start to pick up patterns on. And you'll notice that, like, even as the happy-go-lucky person, you might actually have different, different behavioral traits show up for you at certain times of the day. So yeah, so that is emotional self-awareness. And that is something that is, again, just the huge foundation for emotional intelligence. So like I said, regularly check into your feelings. Also, if you're finding yourself like clenching your teeth or tensing your shoulders or just feeling like worn out, ask yourself questions like, why am I feeling like this? Really recognize those physical patterns and things that are coming up for you. Just listen to what your emotions might be telling you. I do so much strategy around continuously asking myself questions. I'll be like, why did he respond like that to me? Or why am I feeling that way right now? And there's always an underline of something. And it's great to kind of come to that realization on your own by asking yourself questions. You can also, and that's all about like being introspective, right? Where you're talking to yourself and your little voice inside, and you're really having that moment of like, okay, why would I feel like this? What about this makes me feel this way? So I've been doing a lot of work around my feminine energy, and I had someone point out to me that I was super masculine, which I am. I can be a masculine badass, don't get me wrong. When I'm in my masculine energy, I'm flowing, I feel good, I'm ticking things off, I'm really in my workflow. But I also said, okay, well, if someone's pointing out to me that I'm super masculine all the time, I wonder what that means. Like, why would they say that? What does that mean for me? And it ends up spinning you out into a bit of a vortex. And that's just an example. But if someone's giving you feedback, there's probably a reason for it. We often have a hard time seeing it in ourselves. So really consider not who's saying it, but what they're saying. And if it's someone who you value, whether it's a loved one who's really close to you, which it can be really hard to take feedback from that person. But that said, they're usually saying it for a reason. And it's really about going inward and saying, okay, well, why are they saying that to me? What is it about that particular bit of feedback that I've received might make me more aware of who I am and how I show up. Yeah, and so I just love to focus on that and really get you guys going with that as a foundation for emotional intelligence, so that when we move into our next segment, which is going to be recognizing our triggers and using tools to address our triggers and maybe have a less of a reaction and more of a response to them, then you'll have this self-awareness as a baseline. And I quickly just wanted to, let me go ahead and share my screen again with you guys. We're gonna just do one quick tip that I love so much. And again, it's gonna really set us up for next week, which is all about behavioral self-control and triggers. So this is the 60-second rule. So what is the 60-second rule? Okay, so if someone's starting to piss you off, or you're starting to feel like something's going wrong, you're stressed out, you're scared, you're anxious, it's okay. It's just your body telling you that it's fight or flight time. It's your body warning you and letting you know that you might be in a dangerous situation. Okay, it's obviously not a lion chasing you through the caves. We're just not where we are anymore in the world. But something in your brain is releasing cortisone and releasing stress and telling you that you need to calm down and or get out of the situation. It is proven that psychologically, our brain needs 60 seconds in order to go from that state of fear, that state of angst and anxiety or anger or any of those negative emotions that have released dopamine and other hormones through the brain that have caused us to get stressed out. Takes 60 seconds to come from that place into a place of peace or more clarity, I guess, if you will. So the 60-second rule means that you can even, again, put this somewhere where you might want to have a look at it, like every day, where it's like, okay, just take 60 seconds. Even maybe our children, they tend to trigger us if you're a parent or a partner, and just take that extra minute. And, there's this old saying, count to 10, just count to 10. Well, we know that you can go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. So some suggestions would be to recite your phone number backwards. I always joke, I have an Indonesian number, so I have no idea what my number is. And it's like 50 numbers. So I'm like, I would be there for like 9 minutes. I would forget what I was doing in the first place. But that said, recite your number backwards. And then once you get used to that, pick something else. Spell your boss's surname backwards or something like that. Just buy yourself some time. Calm yourself down. Control your breath. And again, go introspectively, understand why. Why am I feeling like this? What is making me feel this way? And what am I actually feeling inside? And really take that extra minute to give that care to yourself, because you deserve it. And also the person on the other end deserves it as well, right? And there's nothing quite like having this power over yourself and over your emotions to be so in control, because you'll often find that as you grow this, you won't be put in those situations nearly as much as you might have been before. And that is the 60-second rule. It's fantastic. Jamila says, I love the 60-second rule. It 100% works. I absolutely recommend it. And that is the 60-second rule for you. And that is going to do us for this evening. I appreciate everybody tuning in. Emotional intelligence, tell us what you think about it. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. You can find me at triciagrant.com. And just as I mentioned before, next week on Thursday, same time, same place, we are going to be doing emotional intelligence, learning our triggers and some techniques to deal with them. You're welcome, Ben. Thank you, Ben, for joining in. You're awesome. I appreciate you coming on to Zoom with us. And that's it. So that'll be next Thursday, June 4th. Come check it out. And that's it. I also wanted to share with you guys that we are doing, myself and my business partner, Steph, we have a company, EQ Culture, which I mentioned at the beginning. We are doing emotional intelligence jolts for your teams. So if you have up to 8 people on your team, if you work in a team environment, please reach out. We're doing 30-minute Zoom meetings for you and your team members. So it's just something outside of like the normal meetings that we've all been taking recently online. And it's a little bit of soft skill training. So you can connect with us at connect@eqculture.com.au. And we primarily, we're available at any time and happy to have that chat. And lastly, feel free to find me on social media, triciagrant.com. As I mentioned, we have a great Facebook group called Emotional Intelligence for Leaders in Business. And you can find me at Tricia Grant EQ or on LinkedIn. And if anybody wants to share their social media handle, please do. I'm happy to follow you back. I would love to connect. Absolutely, always open book and open door and open anything. And yeah, I'm so excited to be part of the Whole Health Project. It's such a great platform. Thank you to everybody who's been sending their videos and putting their videos on for us, because it is so good. And that's all. That's it for tonight. I'm looking forward to seeing you guys next week. Thank you so much for tuning in. Peace, love, and emotional intelligence. Bye. Bye, Vicki.